Morning guys, so Saturday morning and we've got heaps that we're going to get on with. So rear door frames, you can see this little strip of steel here. I've got a weld equivalent on this side over here, so that lifts the surface of this out 3mm and it makes the doors all sit flush. So once I've done that, I've got to basically sandblast both of these so that I can paint them, fear them, all that sort of stuff. So we'll get that done. We've also got to lift the sand, so we laid sand out to dry for the blaster. So we're basically filling up that big drum over there, so we lay it out here, dry it, sieve it through Rolling Thunder over there, and then it goes into that bin. We also have the last of our coving to do, this green goop you can sort of see on the door there. We've got to put that around all four edges of the doors. So I'll flip around and I'll show you that. So on the front face, so this is the front of the door here, the window sits in this gap here and gets bonded in, and then on the back face there's a nice radius, which is, if I show you here it's really obvious. So the window gets bonded in here, and this is the internal part of the door, so there's a nice radius there, so we've got to do that all the way around them. So another one of the jobs we're hoping to get to is, these are our Pantograph hinges, so they were bent up recently and then welded all together, like tack welded and so on. These are the wall and door mounts, so I've had them slotted out, so there's a 12mm slot which allows me to adjust the door to make sure it fits perfectly within the actual door frame itself. And then I got them also, while I was doing that and it was set up on the mill, I got them to drill these holes, so they're all millimetre perfect, so they'll all be identical, which is pretty critical for these hinges to work. So they sound incredibly fussy and precise, and they are, but once they're done you never have to think about them again. So the plan is assemble all of the hinges and everything together, so bolt the wall and the door mounts onto the actual hinges, and then you can see we've only tack welded these together as we sort of show in the last video there, but once it's assembled I can then make sure they all work, and then once I'm happy that it's all going to work, I'll go through and run a double continuous weld on each of these pivots. So I just didn't want to do that until I've got these wall mounts and everything so we can assemble the hinges. This is the bit I hate of blasting, having to clean up. You can see all that white sand everywhere, that's basically sand that's come off the blaster. So I was doing all of the blasting on this piece of plywood, so that's a normal 4 foot by 8 foot piece of ply, and it's buried by about 6 inches of sand all over it, and then likewise so's all this area here, so we've got a lot of shoveling to do. So I need to chuck a weld on this strip that you can sort of see down here. So what I've done is, it's a piece of 3mm by 25mm flat bar, so I've drilled some 8mm holes every, I don't know, 6 inches or 8 inches or something, just drilled an 8mm hole through it, and then I'm just going to fill that up with weld all the way down, so I'll get into that now. Alright, that came up pretty good, so I'm happy with that. So you can sort of see the holes, just basically fill them up with weld, so they stick out from the surface a bit, so you can sort of see that. So there's a radius on this piece, you can sort of see it just in that gap there. That's going to get filled up with fairing compound. These will get ground back flush, and then that's actually going to become the sealing surface of the rubber. Righto, next job on the list is we've got to finish this coving. So you see this green goop up here, basically that's what we start with. We've just got a nice sort of right angle in here. The window bonds to the back side of this here. This is the interior, and we're just putting a nice pretty big radius on this whole thing. So come in there, you can sort of see the curve, or down the ends a great way, you can sort of see how much of a curve it's got. So we've got to go around and put this fairing compound in all the way around. So I've done half of this door, so you can sort of see basically this edge up to about here is done, and I've got to sort of go across and then just up that last side. And then once I've done that, I've got to do all of this door here. So yeah, it's a pretty simple and straightforward job. It's just sort of messy and time consuming. Yeah, so first off, I'm just actually going to give this one a quick sand just to get rid of the goop and stuff off the sides, just in case I need to go over anything or anything like that. I don't want anything getting in the way of the radius tool. So yeah, we'll get started on that. So we're back to drying sand and sieving it again so that we can dry blast. So you can sort of see out the back here, there's a random big pile of sand just here. There's also heaps up on the roof. So it's kind of a funny story. So we swapped suppliers of sand, and the second supplier basically has sand that doesn't really create any dust when we sieve, and we've been using that for a while now. And I forgot all about the dust, and I had a couple of buckets of sand from our old supplier. I know it's a long story, but we dried it and I started sieving it, and I just completely enveloped our boat and the neighbour's boat in a big sand cloud. So I had to come up with a better system that doesn't cover us in sand. So this was my solution. So we have really dusty sand, so we scoop it up with a shovel and then we put it in this funnel. So that funnel is connected to a tube. It slides all the way down there and then lands inside Rolling Thunder, and then behind Rolling Thunder there is a big 60-litre black bucket. So yeah, with this setup we can basically just shovel indefinitely into this little red funnel, and then we end up with sieved sand stored and ready to go down the bottom. Right, so it's time to give this part of the radius a sand. So you can sort of see it's a bit lumpy and bumpy, and a few sort of air bubbles and whatever that have come through as they do. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this, either manually or mechanically. If you do it mechanically, you need some sort of like radius sander, like a flapper disc of some sort, either on a Dremel or a drill or something like that. One of the thoughts I had was actually getting a flapper disc the right radius on either a Dremel or a drill, and build a jig that sort of sits on this steel and slide it along. So in a way I'm kind of machining the surface the whole way along. that's all good, but it's going to take me a while to build that jig, and I thought, well, is there a manual way that's faster? Turns out there is. I'll show you what I've done. Get a bottle of water and fill it up as much as you can with water so it's quite stiff. And then this here is just some 40 grit, so it's really coarse. And then I wrap it just around the bottle. So I basically built myself a you see that there? You end up with a really good radius all the way around and a nice even pressure. So when it's obviously not sanded real great at the moment, but you can see that it comes up pretty much smooth the whole way around. So it is 40 grit, so it leaves a lot of scuffs and scratches and stuff. But once I've got the radius to exactly where I need it, then I can just go around with some high build and just build up the little dimples and holes and stuff, and yeah, that'll be how we finish off these doors. The doors have all been sanded down now, so you can see the covings come out really nice. So we come right down, so to see that. So we do have some lines and carry on going on there because that's only been sanded with 40 grit at this stage. So the plan is we're going to 2-pack it now with a high build 2-pack. So we're using Joe Domestic 90, if anybody gives a crap about the paint. So we're going to paint that up, which will go through and sort of fill up any of the little lines and whatever. That'll basically, we'll paint it and then sand it, and that'll sort of deal with all of those little lines and so on. Yeah. So we got all of the pivots machined up, and then I got these, I tack welded these all on to the various, ends. There's lots of different, lengths of all the different ones made up. So we've got the various bends and stuff put in them, some straight, some bent, etc. I made a jig. Sorry, I made a jig so that I'll show you the jig. So these are all the bits for the hinges. So you got the main load bearing hinges here, and then I chopped the 45, and you can see there's obviously the various arms and stuff with all the different bends and whatever. So these are all just tacked together at the moment, just with a couple of tacks top and bottom on each of these pivots. But I was waiting until I assemble everything before I go and weld them fully. So I made this little jig, so you can sort of see it here. Because obviously all of these pivots have to be absolutely perfect, they all have to be the same length and all that sort of dimensions. So what I did was got a couple of 8mm stainless bolts and drilled them into this piece of 16mm mild steel at exactly the right spacing for what they needed to be. And then when I go to build it, I just slide these little pivots over the bolt, tighten the wing nut down, and then if this is cut to size, I can pretty much just stick it up behind it like that and then weld it on. And I know it's going to be identical pivot to pivot. So it made things pretty fast. And then also we got these done. So these are the plates that need to be done. I made a cock up when I got these done as well. I didn't have the slots in the plan, and I bloody winged it. And I should have got 2 of them vertical like this, and then these 2 should have been horizontal. So not to worry, what I'm going to do, my solution is, so these are milled out to be 12mm slots. I'm going to put a 10mm bolt in, so I'll have 1mm of play either way. So sideways the door's only going to have 1mm of adjustment left or right, or 2mm in total, 1mm either way. So that's my plan. It's not ideal, but yeah, I might later on get a new set of these made. These weren't real expensive. I think they're about $50 all up each. So yeah, down the track I might just go and get another set made up with horizontal slots, but for now these will be alright. So yeah, I haven't got the horizontal, I've got the threaded rod there. I haven't cut that to length yet for the main load bearers, but yeah, I'll be fitting a load bearer in here shortly just to sort of see how it goes, and then yeah, the doors will be ready to start mounting. In terms of where it's going, so I welded in a while back, I welded in a bar here and a bar there, so that's top and bottom for the hinges. So I'll show you the sort of fits in there quite easily. See if I can get it out a bit further. So what my plan was going to be, I've got some 6 by 100mm stainless flat bar, I was going to weld 4 studs onto it so that they come through, and then weld that vertically in here. So these brackets will be sliding up and down on the wall within a stainless, like I don't know, stainless slider assembly, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, so that's my plan, just so that we can get rid of any rust and all that sort of nonsense. And finally, Tim, a friend of ours, is coming up to give us a hand. He's coming up for a few days, and he's going to start working on the wheelhouse. So we're going to be building the dash, getting all of the boards and everything, the insulation and that sort of thing done for the wheelhouse. Essentially all of this is leading to wiring of the engine and starting of the engine. So I'll show you a photo of what the wheelhouse is potentially going to look like. So yeah, so that's our what we're working to. So we're pretty excited. We think it's going to look pretty neat when that's all done. And yeah, we're hoping to start seeing some progress over that in the next sort of week or so.